Hey, sitting here in the backyard in case it looks familiar from the videos I make with Ali or when I did the IG Live with Ben Bruno out here. So, sitting outside, and earlier this morning was the second day back in New York City. And just have clients that have been itching to get in. And, we're very lucky that we were never really required to totally shut down as physical therapists and still kind of be able to use the gym, for people that are probably in a situation where they were both comfortable with being in the city, as well as a very frank medical need. So one of the things that we were talking about, got a little workout in before we started to see patients this morning with Kyle Bowser, and one of the things we were talking about was continuing education. And one of the things, I have a very strong commitment for that for myself, but also for the guys that work at Drive, and we kind of deprioritize that right now. It's like it's very challenging. Everything you spend money on is in a business. You really have to be able to have a mini business plan to flip that over. And I said, like, well, just because it's not part of me paying for it, we are allowed to pay for it ourselves, and it's kind of challenging to invest in something when we don't have a whole lot of patience to use it on. But at the same time, if we do have more time, then it might be a good time to invest. So I've been doing that on my own, and I just finished a TPI fitness level 2, and people might look at like, that is, not a very high brow, and they couldn't be more wrong if that's what they thought, even though the TPI series has been around, I guess we're talking 15 years minimum. I don't know its founding date. I know I took TPI level 1 in 2008, which has been discussed in other formats. But one of the things I've been doing is because golf really never shut down in the tri-state area, Westchester County, Southern Connecticut. A lot of people engaging in physical therapy, for golf performance. And I thought, okay, let's look at that. Then we got to look at where I think it's still good for next week. There was a very significant discount of $200 discount for any of the TPI online courses. And the awesome thing is, like, whenever they're updated, you get new ones. So if I'm pumping up their tires, it's because I've never really taken a TPI course that didn't deliver. Or when you go there, you leave and you're going to become the greatest golf performance character in your town. It's always very, very motivating. And I think what TPI does better than other folks is really distill things at a very, very algorithmic model, meaning it's very, very logical, which I think works for a lot of people, but as simple as possible, but no simpler. So I think sometimes you can look at particularly this fitness module, and like, it all just makes so much sense, and we're probably not delving into significant Russian literature that sometimes I talk about, or handling huge weight, or but it's all there. It's all kind of hidden in a very digestible way in order to really get golfers to engage. And I've had some clients that I've kept up here in Westchester County that is like, so I'm seeing them, and let me take this seminar online and see if I can put that stuff into play. And it's really, really turned out quite well. And I've said this before. I think the golf swing is the the pinnacle of athletic movement, where the line of success and or injury is the smallest. Now, I don't think golf is the hardest sport, and I've presented at the World Golf Fitness Summit for TPI 4 times, and one of the when I had the big room, more people were there, and an unforgettable experience, particularly for those that were there. But I remember asking people, because some of the feedback when they did question and answers, it wasn't really question and answers. It was just people wanting to say what they wanted to say. And because my message was not highlighting golf in this exclusive fashion, I said all sports are hard. And I just said that the golf swing is the pinnacle of all athletic movement. But golf is not harder than other sports. All sports are hard in their own way. Put ice skates on a golfer, or the last time I checked, the ball doesn't move in golf. And I'm not even allowed to like click my camera, or the caddy's going to yell at me. So you have a lot of control of some of these other variables. But the movement itself, to me, is so interesting, and it's so fascinating to dissect. Again, I don't think that makes it the hardest sport, but certainly this notion that of training golfers like athletes, rehabbing them and using therapy skills from a performance standpoint to increase motion prior to stabilizing when it's required is just so fascinating to me. And I really tried to take some of the things that TPI is trying to talk about with golf and reevaluate what we would do for like team sport athletes, what we would do with some other folks and some of the concepts that they're talking about. But and then the talk about nutrition, they talk about beyond fascinating to me is training the female athlete, because whether it's a commercial model or the pro sports model, there is an impact of when women are together for a significant period of time, their monthly cycles seem to coincide, but that's not the case in a commercial model. And to suggest that all women should be training the same at the same time based on their monthly cycle is an incredible amount of science. And I think, if that change was made in training females, they would dominate, like blow people out of the water in terms of their staggering how much science and again how much sense it makes if we look at where women are in their monthly cycle. So now this is something that was put forth with golf as a backdrop, but all women athletes are dealing with this very, very interesting form of physiology that you just don't hear a lot of people talk about. Very, very powerful and fascinating. So the intrinsics and the very, very delicate line of a golf swing to hit the ball straight and to not overload particular joints. Very, very interesting. The values of power, probably no sport, more dependent on nailing. Are you going to increase power from more mobility, time under tension? Are you going to deal with the force component? Are you going to deal with the speed component? And the end game is speed. But if you don't evaluate for those components, then you might miss the lowest hanging fruit. And again, I'm not sure that applies to golf, because all sports are going to be played, with those things in mind. But the degree of mobility, the degree of stabilizing that mobility, what are the norms of force production, and what are the norms for power output? All very, very powerful stuff. So it kind of fit in, and not only that discount, which was very, very cool, which again I think is still out there, not an affiliate, just something that TPI put out there. I think it lasts till June 16th, depending when you see this video. But because I was seeing a lot of golfers, because it was the only thing that stayed open. The country clubs in this part of the country have stayed open, and I guess they were able to bypass whatever rules that we've all been dealing with, which have slowly but surely been peeled back a little bit, particularly again in this part of the country. We're still not quite there in the Northeast. So golf has been played. A lot of folks from Florida are moving back up here, and they're big in golf. So I just thought it was the right time to continue my education based on a need. And that's the one of the last things that I kind of say is when you look for continued education, look to your failure. The next book you read, the next course you take, you see how I chose to take this golf course because I was training a lot of golfers. I didn't necessarily think I was failing, but I knew I could be better, and I knew that by spending money, I would be able to turn it over with a more quality product, and I'd have a great opportunity to practice everything that I was seeing. So a lot like what courses should you take? What'd you fail at? And it puts things into a much more logical and much more sensible. Got to be able to turn it over, in my opinion. So again, we go back to where I started from. Not seeing a lot of people, kind of tough to invest in continued education. Maybe invest in getting people in the door. which is what we've been doing a great job of in New York with some of our virtual training. So talked about a lot of different things and a lot of different avenues, and I hope if this video gets out in time, that TPI, all the level 2 and seminars have a $200 discount, and I can't recommend it enough. But a little bit of an idea on what why I got there, and how choosing other types of continuing education can really be based on not necessarily what looks cool, what's interesting, or where your friends are going. I think we all got caught up in that a couple years ago, and unfortunately a lot of people are still there. But I'd like to look at continuing education as an indicator of where you objectively need to get better. You struggle with a cervical patient, your next book, your next seminar should be a cervical course. You struggle with power, your next course should be a power course. The next book you read, the next podcast that you subscribe to on this particular topic, let it be based off your failure, and start to fill in those gaps and then remeasure. So I think those things make a lot of sense. Hopefully that all kind of jumbled together nicely. I think it did, and I hope makes sense, and you can put some of these ideas into use.